Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Jeffrey Davis. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. We continue to stream stories, entrepreneurship, leadership, how people are dealing with this economy and building their all unique businesses. Our next guest, Alice Stone, founder Sipify. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Tell us about Sipify.
Well, Sipify is my invention. It's a reusable straw. It's the first ever reusable straw designed specifically for use in hot drinks, hot coffee and tea. And it's a simple solution to an everyday problem that has turned into assistive technology for a really big problem.
What problem is that?
Well, so it started with me wanting to be able to drink hot coffee and hot tea and not worry about staining my teeth.
Yeah.
This is Sipify, and this is a steaming cup of tea. And I wanted to be able to enjoy my morning drinks with the convenience of a straw. I wanted to be able to hop on the tea and get jostled and not spill, which is why it's not cylindrical. It's a flat straw, so it fits through the sip hole of a to-go lid. So if you have a straw in place and you get bumped or you're driving and you have to hit the brakes, that straw is going to stop your drink from spilling. If you're driving, every time you tip to sip, you're taking your eyes off the road. And we live in Boston, right? Boston drivers. It's much safer for you to be able to reach for your drink, take a sip and put it back and keep your eyes on the road the whole time. So that was the original origin story for Sipify. But since it's meant for a hot sip that doesn't scald, it's also a gentle sip. And it turns out that if you have dysphagia, if you have swallowing difficulties, the straw is enormously helpful. And I now have evaluations from speech language pathologists who are swallowing experts across the country who are amazed at the promise of Sipify and have been recommending it to their patients with Parkinsons, stroke victims learning to swallow again, people going through any sort of cancer where they have to have their throat radiated. So it's being used across the country by patients as assistive technology.
Wow. I bet you didn't assume that when you developed the straw.
No, however, the story of how I discovered it is pretty cool.
I'm ready.
My main audience, I thought, was people who put time, money, and effort into getting their teeth their whitest, only to stain them every day at Dunkin's. That's the problem I thought it was solving. But I wanted a charitable aspect to the business, and I wanted to be able to donate straws. I was thinking Bombas. We sell a sock, we give a sock. So I was trying to think of what population would really appreciate these straws. And I thought, everyone I've ever met living with Parkinson's drinks exclusively from straws because they experience hand tremors. So everyone I knew with Parkinson's was always drinking from a lidded cup with a straw. And what does that mean? No hot drinks, because you can't put a regular straw in a hot drink. So I reached out to a local Parkinson's organization. They thought it was a great idea. And they connected me with patients. And the first patient they connected me with happens to be a retired assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. And she said, "Oh, Alice, it's nice to enjoy hot coffee again. Sure. But I'm drinking everything with this because I think it's going to lessen my chances of aspirating." So that's the real genius of it. The reason you can drink a hot beverage with the Sipify is because it aerates a little bit as you sip. It just brings in a little bit of room temperature air, enough so that instead of scalding, it's just a comfortable, enjoyable hot sip, just like taking a gentle sip from the top of a mug. So if you have swallowing issues, what the clinicians tell you is to sip slow and sip small. So with the Sipify, the air bubbles displace liquid, so there's less sip volume. And then the aeration also slows the liquid, so there's less sip velocity. So instead of getting this jolt from a straw of a big mouthful, it automatically does what for many people is hard to do because you've been swallowing all your life and now you have this condition and you keep hearing them say sip slow, sip small. But it does that for you effortlessly with the Sipify.
So, very interesting, the whole thing for me. What's your background and what was your path that led you up to this?
Okay, you won't guess this. I have been a documentary filmmaker for most of my career. I started out at WGBH and I've been making my own films. And I spoke a lot about how I felt like a big tool in my kit as a documentary director was my smile, because you want to make people comfortable on camera. And so as I was interviewing, I would really concentrate on just beaming a smile and just sort of sending this energy that this is amazing. What you're saying is so interesting. I'm on the edge of my seat. Just keep going. And my dentist knew that. And so one day he said to me, your teeth would be whiter if you switched to drinking iced coffee. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, you can't put a straw in hot coffee, but you can put a straw in iced coffee. And when you drink with a straw, it delivers the liquid behind the front of your teeth and you don't stain your teeth. And at the time, I just said, I can't wake up to the smell of iced coffee. But it just put something in my mind that I couldn't let go of. Why is it? Why is it you can take this steaming mug and sip and enjoy it, and as soon as you put a straw in, you're burning yourself? And I just wanted to solve that problem.
And you did it all by yourself, or did you hire people to help you?
Oh, I hired a mechanical engineer. Well, first I networked and I found a mechanical engineer who was a friend of a friend who mostly worked in medical technology and loved the idea of working on something that he would use. So he started out just helping me. And then I started doing more and more focus group testing. I would walk into independent coffee shops around Boston and just talk to the manager. And I would say, if I buy people a coffee, can I talk to them about using a straw? So I just did that. I bought a bunch of gift cards. I would actually buy people the next coffee because this is New England and there's a lot of iced coffee drinkers. So I would wait. And when someone bought a hot coffee, I would walk up and I would say, can I give you this for your next coffee? And I talked to many people. I held lots of focus groups. And a lot of those focus groups really informed the design. One of the things that I found was that there is a small but not insignificant portion of the population that drinks with a straw by putting it up against their teeth, and you're not going to get the benefit. So I designed a particularly long mouthpiece for the straw, and it turns out that's also very helpful for people with dysphagia, that the liquid is delivered further back into the mouth. There are a lot of design choices that I made that have this very curious and super cool benefit for people with real swallowing issues. The other thing about the straw is that I wanted you to be able to vary the cooling. So, my tea is not as hot as it was. So I'm going to want to squeeze the silicone cover, and that occludes the air from coming in. So there's less cooling, less air and less cooling. So I say you can find your perfect sip. As the temperature of your drink changes, you can adjust with the Sipify. And it also means that if you're using the aeration because you have swallowing challenges, you can adjust it that way as well.
What a perfect tagline. Find your perfect sip.
Yeah.
Alex, from GBH to entrepreneur, big adjustment, cash flow, manufacturing.
Big learning curve. But I will say that, when you're a documentary filmmaker, you do a deep dive into your subject and you learn everything about it. I mean, I made a film about women bikers in the 90s when it was very uncommon to see a woman riding a motorcycle herself. I learned all about motorcycles. The other thing is it's team building. I'm not a cinematographer, but I know how to hire a cinematographer. I don't write music, but I've hired a composer for every film I've made, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the same thing. I went looking for a mechanical engineer and then an industrial designer and then someone to help me with manufacturing, et cetera. It's team building.
Love to have you back on the show again as you penetrate the marketplace. Alice, if someone's looking for you or Sipify the products, how would they find you?
Well, you can go to my website, sipify.me. That's mostly about teeth whitening. I have a brand new website that is sipcontrol.me for the dysphagia market because they're so different. You can always find me at hello@sipify.me, and I'm also on Amazon.
That's great. What a great entrepreneurial story. Thanks for being on the show today. And remind all our listeners, this is Radio Entrepreneurs.